Ray Gates, head football coach, North Crowley High School. Well, we knew we had to play, some of the best competition early if we wanted to prepare ourselves for a real playoff run. And we had an opportunity to schedule some of the best schools, some of the best teams, in the state. We started off with Lancaster, and we played Desoto, Rockwall, and then Guyer. And coming out of, that 4-game stretch undefeated, was a huge confidence booster for our kids and for our team and for our staff. And I think our kids are ready to make that playoff push. Well, it was a business trip for us. We approached that game as if it were a playoff game. And it was a game that allowed us to put together a schedule for that day that we would do on a normal Saturday or a Friday if we were, in the playoffs. And so our kids got an opportunity to kind of walk through what it would be like in those moments. And as we were, leading up to the game, the atmosphere, the energy of the game was electric. Our kids were ready to play, their kids were ready to play. And I knew it was going to be a really good football game. I knew it was going to be a tough fight. And so before the game, my pregame speech was about Buster Douglas and the opportunity that he had before him whenever he fought a 37-0 Mike Tyson. And nobody thought that he could win that boxing match. He was a 42-1 underdog, and I'm sure if the odds were on our game, it would have been very similar. Nobody thought we could win, but when you put two teams on the field, you have to go out and you have to perform, and our kids did, and we were able to have our Buster Douglas moment that night. Well, just being, in that district, playing your Duncanville, your DeSotos, playing Waxahachie, a lot of the high-profile teams that you guys see coming out of District of Doom, there's a certain style of play, there's a certain type of swag, certain type of energy and juice that, you have to have. And so the number one thing that I wanted to make sure that we brought here was a dog mentality, that no matter who we play, that our kids will have the confidence to go play at a high level. And we were able, to establish that, in year one. And so Cedar Hill, taught me that when you have the type of kids that we have the type of talent that we have, you have to also build the culture. And building that culture is what allows you to compete at a high level, to beat the teams that nobody thinks that you can beat. It's the way that you build and the way that you, lay the foundation in your program. And so, just having that energy, number one with us, and then having a discipline built into our team to be the most disciplined, to be the most physical team, no matter what, every single week. That's what we pride ourselves on, and that's what we brought when we came here. Well, it was a great opportunity for us, and everybody knows that when you're putting something together and you're building something special, that it's levels to it, and so I'll go back to year one. Year one coming here, you always have the idea and the expectation that you could build something, and most of the time, it's going to take, several years to get to that point to where you feel like you finally have arrived and put yourself on center stage. And for us, we were able to do it in year one. And, the game that we played that kind of propelled our season was when we were able to beat, one of the top ranked teams in 5A and Lucas Lovejoy, here at our home field. And that kind of got us going for the rest of the season. And we found ourselves in the third round playing against, a really good Prosper team, which we unfortunately lost. And we ended that first year 13-1. And so coming into the next season, our guys knew that we could play and win in big ball games, and they were itching for an opportunity to show everybody that what happened the prior year wasn't just luck, that we weren't going to be a one-hit wonder. And we capped that off with a 14-1, season playing, probably the best Duncanville team, arguably that Coach Samples has had, at his tenure there at Duncanville. And so coming out of that game, with the loss, it really, for our team, gave them an idea of what it's going to take in order for us to get over, the hump, to play a team like that in Duncanville who won the state championship, knowing you were so close that next week that we could have been playing in that game had, things went our way. And so our kids, for that entire off season, had something to look forward to. They knew what type of work they were going to have to put in. They knew what it was going to take in order for them to get back, to that game and have hopefully an opportunity to see them again in round 5. And so, our rally cry, if you will, for the off season was to finish. We felt like we didn't finish last year, and every week, our goal is to finish every game. As if it were our last game, as if it were, week 15 and we're playing, Duncanville or whoever it is that we may potentially face if we're fortunate to get there, to go out and finish that game and put ourselves at AT&T December 21st at 7 o'clock this year. Man, there's a lot of people that would love to sit in this seat in our profession to become a head coach, and when you've never sat in the seat, you don't understand and realize the responsibility that being a head coach will have on you, will have on your life, how your life will change. And becoming a head coach here, everybody needs a piece of your time. You are the leader, of this ship. You're navigating this ship, and you're not just navigating your coaches, you're not just navigating your players, you're also navigating your school, you're navigating your community. And so you're pulled in a lot of different directions. Your phone, it never stops ringing. You get home and you're at home with your family, and somebody calls and somebody needs something. And so you got to realize that you really are in a position to serve others and to give people, the answers that they need when they need them. And so it has stretched me and it has pushed me to another level in my life. And I'm learning, again, just day by day by the things that, come up, and it's one thing to be a head coach early in your years, learning what that means. And then it's another thing to when you get your program into a space to where it's nationally recognized. How do you maneuver and navigate, the successes of your program? And so, it's like writing a book. Every season has its own chapter, and it has its own challenges. And it seems like in 3 years of being here, I'm learning something new every single day and every single year. Well, the number one thing for us is, and we tell the kids every single week, we want to be a better version of ourselves this week than we were last week. And it's always, always, always about us. We don't make it about the opponents that we're playing. We don't make it about, the big games, the small games. Every game that we play is a big game. And we'll tell our kids it's a big game because we're in it. And so we have to approach every single day, every single opportunity with a big game mentality. And so when we come out to practices, our practices need to be amped up. We need to have juice. Our practices, they feel like a game. And we're going to keep our competitive edge just because we're going to compete every single day in practice, so that when we get to Friday, our goal is that Friday is easy because of the work that we did Monday through Thursday. It was harder. We want to say that the best looks that we're going to get, it's going to come from how we prepare each other in practice. And so our guys are learning how to practice at a competitive level. They're learning how to sharpen, their knives based on, the work that they put forth, during the week. And so if we can continue to have that focus and to keep our guys in that lane, understanding that, the team that you saw last week on film isn't the team that you're going to see tonight when you face us, because we've evolved. We're a better football team every single week. Then we're moving this team forward in week 15, 16 state championship game. We hope to be playing our best football. We're very explosive on offense for a lot of different reasons. I'll just start with QB1. We have Chris Jimerson at the helm. He's a guy that has played a lot of football for us. You don't find a lot of guys in the state of Texas that have played, that position at the 6A level for 4 years. He was a varsity starter as a freshman, the last 3 games of, the season, and then he played in, the playoff game. And then when we got here his sophomore year, he, learned an entire new offense. And as a sophomore, he was just keeping his head afloat on everything that we were doing. As a junior last year, he took tremendous strides. He threw for over 3,000 yards, 40 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions on the year, and rushed for 1,000 yards in 15 ball games. And so what you see now is a culmination of all that experience coming to a head. His teammates believe in him, trust him. He has an unbelievable grasp on our offense. We can put so much on him, and he can get everybody right where they need to be. And because of his ability, he'll have an opportunity to go play at the next level quarterback at UNT. When you combine his experience with the backfield that we have, and really a 3-headed, backfield with Cornelius Warren, Daniel Bray, and the young pup, the sophomore Keontae Ingram, we can hit you with different styles of runners. Cornelius and Daniel Bray are 2 of the fastest guys that you'll see, on a Friday night. They can take the top off of a defense. They can run the ball in between the tackles, outside the tackles. It's not much that they can do. And then when we put, Keontae Ingram in, sophomore, he's a 5'11", 185-pound back. That's a downhill, one-cut back. That's the physical presence that you also need. Then you couple that with Q for 6. Everybody right now in the country is recruiting, Quentin Gibson. And, the kid up until this point has 17 touchdowns on the year. If you add in the 2 scrimmages, he has 25 touchdowns in seven games. So he's an unbelievable asset. He's always open. He's never covered. He can get anywhere he needs to on the field. And he's a big play threat in all areas and phases of our offense. And then you have, Cam Hunter and Kevin Moore, who are also 2 of the wide receivers who are high-powered, guys that have great ball skills and big play potential anytime they touch the ball. And so when you have all of that on all 3 levels, and not to mention an offensive line that boasts, the #1 tackle in the country as a junior in the 2026 class in John Turrentine, 6'5", 300 pounds, Henry Faniku, 6'4", 300 pounds, who's committed to the University of Missouri, a right guard, and Dawood Greer, who's a 6'3", 300-pounder, and Ian Carter, who's 6'6", 310. When you have that type of size and the physicality up front, they make it so much easier for our running backs and our quarterbacks and receivers. So, we have every level, we have every phase on offense, and because of that, you're seeing the explosiveness that we have every Friday night. When you're building a defense, we always want to build our defense from the middle, starting with the guys up front. When we have a kid and Derek Gleason and DJ Beasley, who are our defensive tackles, who have done a phenomenal job, with just establishing and recreating the line of scrimmage. And up front as well, we have the elder statesman and Xavier Coleman, who's been a 3-year starter for us, who's currently committed to Yale. Super smart kid, very athletic, long off the edge. Linebacker group, we have 2 guys in the linebacker group right now that, are big-time Division I football players, and Jabril Asbury, who's our starting Mike backer. Physical kid, downhill, loves contact, has that true schizophrenic nature in football, where on the field he's a menace, off the field He's just a great kid, great person to be around. And then outside, we have Deuce Cunningham, who's a University of Texas commit, super long, 6'3", 185-pound guy, who can cover guys on the slot, who can come off the edge, and just another physical presence. And then when you look at the secondary, we have, a lot of guys back there that's played a lot of football, starting with Galen McNeil, who has several Division I offers, who's a 2025 senior. We have the 4-star corner in Drayden Fulbright, who's currently committed to Tulsa. We have the young pup, a 2027, who has garnered, 3 offers right now. Thomas Cook, who's a 2026 corner, has a couple of offers as well. And Aaron Bradshaw, 6'3", 185-pound junior safety, who again also has several offers. So in that back end, we have guys that played, a lot of football, and they can cover guys and come down and they can tackle. So when you have that from your small guys, who's willing to do all those things, you get the result that we're getting right now. Man, I'll give it to both of the twins. So we have Tay and Dre Cassie, who are 2025 seniors. One plays defensive end for us, the other plays linebacker. Two gritty, hard-nosed, working kids who they really do a lot of the dirty work, a lot of the things that kind of go, unnoticed. Two guys that are, of course, they're really, really close because they're brothers and they're twins. But, they come in this weight room, they're going to put on a lot of weight on that bar, and they're going to move a lot of weight. And then you put them in on the game, and they show up every single week, on film. They're always around the ball, guys that do their job phenomenally well, and guys that deserve, a lot of praise, especially being seniors, waiting their turn to be in the position that they're in today. So both of those guys are guys that are, again, they have some offers as well, but guys that probably don't get noticed as much as some of the other guys. I think what I enjoy most here is that it's a true community. It's not just about our kids. We have phenomenal kids. We love our kids. We go above and beyond the call of duty for our kids. We're gonna fill in the gaps wherever they may need to be filled in. But our parents, our school teachers, our administration, it's unbelievable. If you come to our campus, what you see on our fields right now, we have 4, brand new turf football fields. We have an unbelievable indoor facility. Right now we have construction going on the ground where they're building brand new facilities. We're getting brand new weight rooms, locker rooms, coaches' offices, meeting rooms, you name it. There are no stones being, left unturned. We're also building an indoor track venue with an outdoor track stadium. We'll be the only high school in the country with an indoor track. So our district is heavily rooted in putting the resources behind athletics here. And I think in the years to come, you're gonna find that North Crowley, not just in football, not just in basketball, but in all sports will be thriving because of the resources and the support that we have here in our community. I think most importantly, one of my favorite quotes comes from one of the leading authors in the world of leadership, and his name is John Maxwell. But he says that people often follow the leader before they follow the vision. I think as the leader of this program, my niche is that I can motivate, people. I can move people, but most importantly, I think my ability to create the relationships with the people in this building, the people outside of this building, to bring people together, to allow people to be stakeholders in the vision that you have cast, to allow people to be heard, have their voices, and then I think you have to be able to empower people. And when you can do those things as a leader, people buy into whatever it is that you're selling. And I tell people all the time, the biggest compliment that you can get as a leader is when someone comes up to you and they tell you that the only reason why they're going to do what has been asked is because of you. If somebody else would have asked, it would have been no. But because it was you, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it to the best of my abilities. And so you get to that, by building those relationships and investing in people and letting them know that, they matter. Well, it took me a long time to realize that there is really no such thing as failure unless you don't learn from the situation. Um, in my coaching career, the moment where that really came full circle was the year 2019 at Cedar Hill, being a special teams coordinator, playing Denton Guyer in the second round of the playoffs, being up 41-14 with a guy named Caden Salter, who's now quarterback at Liberty, who'll be, on the Heisman watch list. Up in that game, and we end up losing that game 51-41 because 3 out of the 4 onside that they kicked, they received, and they went down and scored touchdowns. Game we should have won. No way in hell should we have lost that game. And as the special teams coordinator, my unit not performing in the most crucial point, in the most crucial time, of a game, was crushing. And I can remember sitting in a Cowboy Stadium in the locker room after that game, so disappointed in myself. I felt like I let everyone down, and it just stayed on me for a very, very long time. And in the process of when things don't go your way, we tend to just move past, the failure without examining the failure. And for me, I learned that failure is the greatest teacher. And because we weren't successful and because we didn't perform well, I had a conversation with failure. And I talked to failure, and I found out why we failed, and I found out why failure showed up in those moments, in that game. And because I had that conversation, because I wasn't afraid to look deep underneath, the hood and to examine the things that we could have done, better, because I didn't shy away from it or wish that it, didn't happen. We found out some things about ourselves, and we put some things in place, and we went and we studied, and we found different ways to do different things to help us in those situations. And the very next year, 4 times that we had to put that unit out on the field, in situations to close the game, we were successful. We were 100% because failure showed up. It exposed something. And so in life, I tell our kids that failure is the greatest teacher. And there's no such thing as failure. It's only an opportunity to learn and to grow. And if failure shows up and you learn and you will grow, it's part of your process. It's part of your evolution. It's the reason why when a situation arises again, you will have the answers for it, and you can hold your head up high and be confident knowing that you're prepared for the moment. Building. Right now, we don't have a legacy. I don't have a legacy. A legacy is a body of work. And right now, I'm in a unique position to author, this legacy. Every single day is a page, and we're writing on that page. And I hope that when this thing is all over, and we look back, upon my tenure here and my career, that it's not about the wins and the losses. It's not about, the state championships. What I truly hope is that the men that have come through this program will have learned Galatians 6:9. Do not become weary in doing good, for you will reap a harvest if you faint not. That the men will have learned principles over feelings, to operate not by how you feel, but to operate by principles. For the men that come through this program to have learned our standard of behavior, be above average, meaning that, do things above average. It takes nothing to wake up in the morning and be an average human being, to strive to be the better you, to create fathers that will, break the cycle of, unwed mothers and, children out of wedlock, to be there for their families and to be productive citizens in our communities. That's what I hope my legacy, will be. And the winning and all of that is fun, but the legacy is in the people. And if we can make them better and allow them to reach their dreams and play a part in that, then it was all worth the while. Ray Gates, North Crowley, here tapped in with Top Athlete Sports.